stress and strain, coefficient of thermal expansion, dimensions of the color, metamerism, biological considerations of the dental material. Stress is an internal force that resists an externally applied load or a force. Whenever any force is applied to a particular object or a particular thing, the internal force would be applied to that material, and that is called as a stress. So always remember, stress is an internal force and not an external force. External force may be in the form of compressive force, which try to compress or shorten the material, which may be in the form of say the tensile force, which tries to elongate the material in the same direction of the force, or it may be in the form of a shear force, which gives the sliding or a twisting kind of a motion to that particular object. So again, strain is the change in length per unit original length when the stress is applied to it. So for example, you want to know about the strain if there is a change in length is about 1 unit for that particular object, and the original length is 10 units, then the strain would be 0.1 unit. So for better understanding, it is a change in length per unit original length. The strain can be either elastic. Elastic means what? It totally disappears after the removal of an external force, and it can be plastic, which retains its shape even after the removal of the external load. So this is the basic diagram which can show you regarding, like, this is a shear force which is going to apply on the interface A and B. Like in that particular force, the shear stress is going to occur in the sliding motion, but in an elastic strain, it will retain that particular force whenever it is going back to its original position. But in case of a plastic shear strain, that would be the permanent changes that were done in the interface, and there would be a permanent change in the dimensions of that particular object. So whenever we plot a stress and a strain or a deformation in an x and a y axis, there is a straight line of the line that represents the line of elastic deformation is called as elastic deformation. The slope of the straight part of the line represents the modulus of elasticity, and the length of the curved part is always represents the ductility. So most of the time these questions are asked to us during the your viva for the dental material, and then the students are supposed to answer about in this particular manner. The area which is present under the line represent is called as a resiliency, and the area is the entire represent is called as a toughness. Means the toughness is a combination of elastic as well as the plastic deformation. Whereas in case of elastic deformation, there is only the resiliency is going to occur. So the elastic deformation or is the resiliency of that particular matter. Coefficient of thermal expansion. Dr. Samir Zadav has tried to explain the coefficient of thermal expansion. It is generally in the examination, the external ask or the internal ask you a question like CTE, coefficient of thermal expansion, or maybe in the examination you would be asked to as COTE, coefficient of thermal expansion. What is it? It is the change in length per unit of the original length of the material when the temperature is raised by 1 degree Kelvin. So even if in a similar way what we have discussed about the strain and strain, whenever the temperature of any material is raised by 1 degree Kelvin, if the changes occur, there is a 1 unit change is there, and the original length would be the 10, then 0.1 would be the coefficient of thermal expansion of that particular material. So in dentistry, it is very important to know about the coefficient of thermal expansion, because if the restorative material and the tooth doesn't have a similar kind of a coefficient of thermal expansion, there are always chances for the marginal leakage or debonding of that particular restorative material from the tooth structure. In case of a fabrication of the prosthesis, in case of restoration, inlay casting wax is very important, and while taking a direct kind of fabrication for the restoration, the inlay wax pattern is prepared in the oral cavity in the mouth. The oral temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius. When it is brought down to the room temperature, that may be around 20-25 degrees Celsius, there is a decrease in temperature, and that significant decrease in temperature leads to the significant changes in dimension, as the inlay casting wax is high coefficient of thermal expansion, and hence we always recommend that this particular material should be invested as early as possible. Also, in case of a thermal stress which is going to occur due to the mismatch of coefficient of thermal expansion of the metal and the ceramic. In case of a ceramo-metal restoration, The porcelain veneer that is fired to the metal coping, the porcelain contract get greater because the coefficient of thermal expansion of the ceramic is little bit more as compared to metal. So it, whenever it contracts great, and when the metal is going to cool, when the ceramic is going to cool, porcelain is going to contract more because it has a greater amount of coefficient of thermal expansion. That more contraction of porcelain in respect to metal will lead to the tangential stresses at the interface, and that tangential stresses on the interface will lead to the immediate or a delayed kind of a crack formation, and again that particular thing would be going to dislodge at the interface level. Next of the topic is for the properties, we'll discuss about the dimensions of color. As a dentist, as a dental care professional, we should always fulfill the desire of our patient to have an aesthetically acceptable restoration that should simulate the natural appearance. So that if the material is transparent like glass, it will transmit the entire light. If the material is absorbing the light, that is an opaque. For example, the metal paints are opaque in nature. And third point is the scattering of light. When the material is transluting, it will scatter the light. So, for example, we have a diffuse kind of a glass which scatter the light, right? It is not transparent, it is not opaque, it is in between transparent and opaque. So, dimensions of color are basically hue, value and chroma. What is hue? Hue is the basic color of that particular object determined by the wavelength of the reflected or the transmitted light observed. So, in case of the like basic value, basic color is either yellow, green or red. By different bit of variation, we are supposed to know the hue of that particular prosthesis or that oral cavern teeth, so that that particular hue should be matched with the shade guide, and that should be conveyed to the laboratory for proper fabrication of the prosthesis. The value is the relative lightness or darkness of the color brightness of an object. If the color is relatively light, it has a greater value. It has color relatively dark, it would have a less value. So again, the chroma is the difference in color intensity or the strength. Is called as chroma. Like in a beaker, we add a drop of ink, it will have some different color. Then we add an increasing amount of drop of that ink will have a different color. So we are increasing the chroma of that particular water into the different particular quantum. So that chroma is the difference in the color intensity. This is the Munsell's color order system, in which recommend that first of all we are supposed to select the basic hue of that particular tooth. Then we are supposed to look for the value of that particular tooth, and then further the chroma is to be selected. What is metamerism? Generally, metamerism, and these all questions are asked to you as an SAQ. The metamerism is in the appearance of an object depend on the type of light in which the object is used. Sometimes we have a good kind of oral restorations which is good in one particular light, and this is not good in the another particular light. Like in the tube light, it looks something different, and in the daylight, it looks something different. So the objects that appear to be color match under one type of light may appear different under the other light source. This phenomenon is called as metamerism. Generally, in case of a ceramics, may it be in all ceramic or may it be a metal ceramic restoration, or the composites which have a more amount of ceramic fillers present, shows the metamerism kind of a property. That particular process looks one in one light and looks other in other light. So the quality and intensity of light must be controlled in matching color of that particular dental restoration. If possible, color matching should be done under two or more different lights. One should be daylight source. Daylight source is always recommended. The northern afternoon light, maybe around 12 noon to 2 p.m. light is an ideal light where you are supposed to keep the shade matching with that particular thing. And the laboratory should match exactly the same light should use, and the daylight it should use. So accordingly, they will match the shade what you have taken in the dental clinic, and that would be matched in the dental lab. What are the biological considerations of the dental material? These are generally asked to you as a SAQ, or sometimes once in a rare chances they can be asked to you as a LAQ also. So what is biocompatibility? Biocompatibility is being in harmonious with the life and not having any toxic or injurious effects on the biological function of that particular restoration of the dental material. That particular thing, quantum, that is biological consideration of the dental material, is gauged or measured by the localized toxicity, cytotoxicity, that may be either pulpal or the mucosal response of that particular dental material, or that can be gauged by the systemic response, allergenicity or carcinogenicity. What is so what are the requirements to material to be biologically compatible? It should not give any harm to the pulpal or the soft tissue. It should not contain any toxic diffusible substance that may get absorbed in the circulatory system, causing the systemic toxic responses. It should not produce any allergic responses, and it should not be carcinogenic in nature. So biomaterial should be defined by glossary of postodontic terms as any substance other than a drug that can be used for a period as a part of a system that treats, augments or replaces any tissue, organ or function of the body. Basically, the biomaterials are classified on the basis whether they contact on the soft tissue within the oral cavity, like for example acrylic resin. They can be further classified on the basis they could affect the health and vitality of the pulp. For example, liners and bases. The biomaterials are further classified as a root canal filling material, for example gutta percha. These can also, the biomaterials are classified on the basis which affect the hard tissue within the oral cavity. For example, titanium alloys, which are placed for dental implants, or those which are used in the dental laboratory. For example, nickel, chromium, cobalt, and different kind of nickel, chromium alloy, gold alloys can be considered that are used in dental laboratory. What are the different tests available for the material to test as a biocompatible material? These are classified on 3 levels, that is group 1, primary test, group 2 that would be secondary test, and group 3 that would be a use test. The first one, primary test, the main advantage of primary test, it is the in vitro test. You are not going to touch the patient or you are not going to touch the subject, and it is done in a controlled experimental condition. It is the most rapid, economical and easily standardized kind of a test, and the large scale screening is always possible in case of a primary test, but it does have some disadvantages, that it has lack of relevance to the in vivo situation or in vivo condition or in vivo scenario of that particular material to the patient. It does not have any kind of immunological, inflammatory or a circulatory system. So the primary test can be either of cytotoxicity test, like fresh or the cured state material is placed directly on the tissue culture cells or on the membrane, and the that particular membrane or the tissue culture cell has been observed for any kind of compatibility with the tissues or the cells. Or it can be have a genotoxicity kind of a test, which is carried on the mammalian or non-mammalian cells, that evaluates the gene mutation caused by the dental material. One of which is example is Emmy's test. Some of the examiner generally asked what is Emmy's test, because this is a nice to know question of the biocompatibility. What is Emmy's test? Emmy's test is the material which is tested with a mutant histidine dependent bacteria. Now that particular agent is added to a culture medium containing Salmonella typhimurium. That is a mutant gene, it cannot produce histidine. But if that particular material is carcinogenic in nature, Salmonella typhimurium will reverse it to original state, that will start producing histidine again. What are the secondary tests? Secondary tests are the tests which are done on the intact biological system to respond to a material that provides the important bridge between the in vitro test, that is the primary test, and the user's test. What are the disadvantages? It is relatively more expensive as compared to primary test, and it is difficult to control. It takes some time, and definitely it has some ethical issues. What types of secondary tests are available? The systemic toxicity test is whenever the material administered to the test animal, for example rats, orally or intravenously. If the more than 50% of animals survive, that particular material is supposed to be relatively safe in secondary test. Then that would be go to the user's test. The skin irritation test is a type of secondary test. It shows the inflammatory type inflammation without intervention of antibody or the immune system, where the material is placed intradermally in rats and held in contact for about range of 24 to 90 days. or intramuscularly in rabbit for 24 hours to 7 days, the erythema and the edema are examined and confirmed related to the skin irritation test for the secondary test. Third can be of skin sensitization test. What does it say? It says it is an inflammatory response requiring participation of an antibody system specific to material allergen done similar to an irritation test, but here the antibody system is involved. So we have to have some amount of allergen and allergic antibody reaction should be, antigen antibody reaction should be there. So fourth one would be the inhalation toxicity test. It is performed in the rats, rabbits or the guinea pigs in exposure chamber with the aerosol preparation by releasing the spray material around head and upper trunk of that particular animal. If within 2 or 3 minutes the particular subject, that is either rat, rabbit or a guinea pig dies, it has a death, then it is very toxic. If it is no death, then it is safe for human application, and that can be proceed for the uses test. Implantation test is also type of a secondary test which says only this is the only use for testing implants and endodontic material, in which where the material which is placed subcutaneously, intramuscularly or as a bone implant at the lateral cortex of the femur or tibia, or it can be placed on the both. Then the histopathological examination is needed, and that is to be done and observed. Period may be up to 1 year, where we are supposed to check whether this particular implant gives any kind of toxic effect locally or systemically to that particular area. As the material or that particular test material is implanted in the body, it is categorized under implantation test, and it is a secondary test. Third one is the uses test. What are the advantages of uses test? The material placed in the environment clinically is the most relevant to its clinical practice. But it has some disadvantages, like it is extremely complex and difficult to perform because of the ethical issues. It is exceptionally expensive because nobody will going to give the concern for the ethical issues, and hence it is exceptionally expensive and very time-consuming method is there. In animals, it is called as uses test, but if it is done in humans, it is called as controlled or clinical trials. What are the different types of uses test? The first one is the pulpal and dentine uses test, in which the biocompatibility of the material is placed in dentine, and the restorative material, if it induces any pulp response, is supposed to be the positive control. Then the histopathological examination is to be done after the period of 7, 28 and 70 days for the degree of inflammatory response. The degree of inflammatory response, the manner of reparative dentine formation, and the number of microorganisms entrapped is in the entire cavity would be seen, and that would be depending criteria whether this particular material is good or not. Then next would be the pulp capping and the pulpotomy uses test. The pulp is exposed for the pulp capping and partially removed for the pulpotomy assessment. Here the calcium hydroxide used as a negative control, and the assessment of dentinal bridge formation adjacent to the is called supposed to be the uses test. Third one would be the endodontic uses test, where the pulp is removed and the pulp cavity filled with the obturating test material. Then that particular tooth is removed along with the surrounding apical periodontal tissues in a single en bloc system, and that particular degree of inflammation is evaluated for the degree of inflammation in the periapical tissues. Minimal, no response, or that particular response is resolved within a short duration of time, then we call that particular material as a biocompatible. So here it is a kind of a pyramid where we are supposed to first go for the primary kind of a test, then it is to be followed by secondary kind of a test, and then it would be third is the uses test.